On today's episode, I'm going to show you how to make this fall harvest candlestick. So I found this really wonderful black candlestick. It's metal at the craft store, and I thought that's perfect for baking polymer clay onto it because it won't be affected by the heat of the oven, since polymer clay is a low baking material. What I did first is I peeled the base off and set that aside because I don't know if that foam on the bottom will bake or not. Then I have leaves of different sizes set in front of me. And what I'm going to do, I want to make sure that they're really secure as I put them onto the candlestick. So I'm actually going to use a little bit of white glue, and this will just give a little bit more adhesion onto the candlestick. Now you can start either at the bottom or the top. I'm going to start at the top because it's a little trickier to get your leaves sort of bent around the lip of the candlestick. Then I'm going to take a little bit bigger leaf and do the same thing, and I just use a little brush, and if you wash your brush out when it's still wet, you can reuse it. The white glue will not affect it. And I'm just going to overlap on the last leaf. The idea is just to create sort of a cascading wrapping effect, and it's nice to have a little bit of element that goes onto the top of the candlestick, an element of surprise and interest. And just put another leaf up there. And then as you continue down the candlestick, you'll just decide where you like the look of it. Like I said, I like them to kind of wrap around the middle section and down to the base. So once I placed all the leaves onto my candlestick, you can see they sort of climb up the side of it. You've got the ones at the top and some sporadically around the base, though I still want to see some of the black metal because it's a nice contrast with the earth tones of the leaves. And to bring out the texture even more on the leaves, I'm going to make a liquid polymer clay glaze using the Fimo liquid, which is translucent in the bottle, but you can add alcohol ink. And here I'm using the Spectrum Noir from Crafter's Companion. And I'm just going to open the bottle up. I've got this nifty little metal container with a glass lid. This is great for liquid polymer clay because it can be stored in that. Use my little dropper. So I've got about a half a teaspoon of liquid clay in my little bucket, and I'm going to add, that's about between 12 and 15 drops approximately of the ink in there. I want to get a nice rich olive color. So now that I have the liquid clay in the container, I'm going to use my knitting needle, my all-purpose tool, once again to really mix that ink into the liquid clay. And what I did first is I let it set briefly so the alcohol can evaporate. Then you don't get as many bubbles in the liquid clay, and you just get the color in there. So I've got a nice rich olive color for that. We're staying in the earth tones. Okay, and to apply this, I just use the tip of my finger and spread it over the surface of the leaf. And I'll do a few of them. Just really press it into the grooves of the texture, and you can really start to see it pop out. And then I'll wipe off the excess. I'll clean off the tip of my finger and wipe off the excess liquid clay. And what's nice is these leaves had a little bit of embossing powder on them, so it's got a slight gold sheen to it over the surface of the marbled clay. And then if you do like what I just did, is you just take a paper towel, and until the liquid clay is cured, you can just wipe it right off. So I would continue all the way up and put the liquid clay glaze into all of the leaves that are currently on the candlestick and wipe off the excess. Make sure when you cut out all of your leaves that you save your scraps. These are just the outline of the leaves, but they're what you're going to need now. And what's nice is they already have a great color mix going on in them, and I'm going to roll them into a cylinder as I did before when I was marbling the clay, but this time this is going to be a decorative element. It'll be the vines on your candlestick. So as I roll it out, you can see some stripes in the clay, and I want it to be fairly thin. Again, I'm using the technique where I keep my fingers together, my hands very flat, so as not to get a lumpy snake of clay. Then I'm going to twist it a little as I did when it was marbled the first time, because it gives the vine a really nice marbled effect. Then I'm going to spread a little bit of my untinted liquid clay onto my work surface. And it's just a very thin layer. What this does, it helps a little to adhere the vine onto the candlestick. Just going to roll it in there so it's now coated with liquid clay. And I'm going to form a little scroll, decorative scroll at the end. These pumpkin vines sometimes look like that. I'm going to set it onto my candlestick and just have fun and play with it. And this can be done in little pieces, so you don't have to do it all at once. Just to make sure, since the leaves still have a little of unbaked liquid clay on them, I'm going to press the vine onto that, and then everything will stick much better onto the candlestick when it bakes. Do a little bit more here. Make one more little scroll and roll it up and put it over the end of the last piece. And just bring it around the side of the candlestick. And then I can start a next one on the back side and continue wrapping it around the base of the candlestick. So we need some pumpkins to go onto our candlestick. I've started with the tangerine Fimo-polymer clay, and it's been conditioned, and I've rolled it into a thick cylinder, and I'm going to cut a few slices in different sizes because we want our pumpkins to vary a little bit. I just put 5 on mine, but you can do more if you want. You'll probably need almost a whole block for that. All right, and I'm going to roll it into a ball and just get it nice and smooth. So there's essentially my pumpkin. Squash it down a little bit. I'm going to use again, like we did before, the Judkins embossing powder in this wonderful translucent gold. And I like because it has a big wide mouth on this jar, so it's easy just to dump the pumpkin in there. And what's nice also is that it's translucent, so it doesn't turn your pumpkin yellow when it bakes. It just gives it a really nice speckly gold sheen to it. Best way to create texture on a pumpkin, just start from bottom to top. And again, I use my handy knitting needle. Just give it some pressure. Distorts a little bit. Have you ever seen a perfect pumpkin? No, they're all a little bit different. So give it a little personality, and then you can squash it back down again. And then it needs a little bit of a stem. So I've got some leftover vine here from our last step, and I need a little bit of liquid clay. I'm going to put it on the top of the pumpkin there. Just cut off a little piece of stem and sort of smash it on there and bend it over. Now your pumpkin's got a little bit of personality, and you want to repeat that, and like I said, make about 5 or 6 pumpkins to go on your candlestick. Now just before we add our pumpkins on, we want to do one last step that'll really pop the leaves out on the candlestick base. So I'm going to use the Deco Color Premium oil-based metallic marker, and I've shaken it up and my pen tips already. I'm just going to use it to edge the leaves a little bit. Give them a little bit of a shiny accent. Add to the whole fall color scheme. And this doesn't have to be everywhere, just in a few places around the edges of the leaves. So it just brightens it up a little bit. And I like that the line on it is a little bit irregular. And show you down here on the base as well, just on some of these leaves, just to bring it out a bit. So you'd go over your entire piece and then let that dry. One thing I thought I'd mention is before you apply your copper pen, but after you've applied your leaves and vines, make sure that you bake your candlestick and then apply the copper after your leaves are firm. Otherwise it might get a little messy. Now I've put a little bit of liquid clay once again into my polymer friendly container, and I am going to apply my little pumpkins. They're still unbaked, so I'm going to add a little bit of liquid clay to the bottom and start with the little one on the very top, and I'm really going to get a pretty good press onto the candlestick. Then I'll take another one and do a few around the base. I'll put one right in here and turn it just so it's sort of upright. It appears upright, so you're kind of squishing the side onto the candlestick. Okay, let's get a few more on. I'll just spread it around the bottom, and I think I'll put one in this cluster of leaves. Right about there. I'll take a little bit smaller one and put it next to it. I'm just putting in a generous amount, not too thick, but on a big surface area of the pumpkin, so I know there's some that will stick to the clay beneath it because the liquid clay will help bond it to the vines and leaves underneath. And then I think I'm going to put my last pumpkin, well, I think over here, and you can play around with it and see where you want it. I think right about there I'll put it. This one is going to be more on the side because it's on the side of the candlestick. So I have to press the side of the pumpkin on. Now I would recommend that you bake this upright in your big home oven. It's a little bit easier. I actually did bake mine in a toaster oven. What I did find is that the pumpkins, a couple of them did fall off, and I would check them all afterwards and use a dot of cyanoacrylate, which is like a super glue, underneath to put them back on should they come loose, and then they'll be really on there. So, but don't glue them till after you bake it. Bake the whole candlestick according to your clay directions and allow it to cool completely, and then test your pumpkins and glue them on, and your candlestick is ready.
We hope you're enjoying our Holiday Happenings series, sponsored by Crafter's Companion and Judykins. Please follow us on social media, and remember to sign up on our website so you'll be eligible to win a prize package full of some of our favorite products. And as we always say, when creativity knocks, open the door.